Months that have felt like years, navigating the unforgiving desert sea, mesmerizing dunes and jagged rock formations, and land as flat as I have ever seen. And as if hostility of the land itself was not enough, violent vermin, twisted and mutated by the broken threads of magic here, travelers turned raider, lost to their homes and desperate for survival there. But finally I find myself among something very rare indeed. And as luck would have it, at least my professor of anthropology companion would put it that way, we have been allowed to join a rather momentous occasion among a very unique group of individuals. As tall as giants, with blue skin, 6 arms, and as stoic a countenance as I've ever seen, the mysterious tribe we've been looking for is finally at literal arm's reach, celebrating the birth of a new one of their incredibly rare few. We missed the maturing process, of which the professor mentioned is quite quick. In fact, the howls of agony they claimed were part of such a process was how we found them, as the horrible sound stretched across the wasteland, guiding us forth. The professor is enthusiastically scribbling every detail they can muster throughout every bit of this event, but my stomach churns at the sight of what I just saw was added to a stew I fear I may be expected to eat. And while most are occupied, my crew and I have played it casual. My concern here and now are the strange urns, jars, and amphora that are kept under guard at all times, and the apparent undamaged magic contained within. What these primitive beings seem to believe is that they can mend the damage done to the wastes. It's hard not to roll one's eyes at the futility of the thought, though I may not believe such a silly thing. I've a job to do. My employer thinks it's a threat, and I'll be damned if this horrible trek was a waste of time. The crew is set up, in position, and all side eyes are on the destruction of those vessels of superstition. I best give the signal before they start pouring bowls of that stew.
Hey there, creatures, and welcome to Encounter This, a podcast exploration of the creatures from Pathfinder 2nd Edition and the lore that surrounds them. Hello there, creatures, and welcome to another episode of Encounter This. My name is James of Terrible Countenance Kid, and with me as always is Freeman with his tongue lolling out Iced-tin, who's going to be walking us through the Calikang, found on Bestiary 3, page 42. We got a couple of items on the reading list here, which will be included in the description of both the audio and video format, including a couple of books from Pathfinder 1E, which I didn't expect to see here.
Indubitably.
Explain yourself, Freeman.
I would happily do so. This creature was like the Dwemer cat, a bit of a random get and grab for me, but turned out to be pretty fun. I feel like I'm having a good track record so far with some fun creatures that I don't expect. So the Calikang, Calikang? I don't know how to say it either. But I will quickly throw out that we are going to be looking at some more Hindu lore and mythology with this creature. And it's reasonably obvious when I start with the very first descriptor. It is giant, blue-skinned, and 6-armed.
Six arms?
Six arms, yeah.
Let's bring it to the image, because that doesn't look like 6 to me.
You're wrong. There's 4 on each side, and then there's 2 folded in the center.
Oh, they are folded in the center. Okay.
Yeah. I love this artwork. It is sort of just crisp and clean and smooth and fun. It almost doesn't look intimidating, but it should. This creature's pretty damn cool. It's about 14 feet tall, weighs about 4,000 pounds. That's 1,814 kilograms. And they reach adulthood in the span of a week, which involves painful moltings in which only half the children survive.
For our audio listeners, it is this very imposing Goliath with like 6 arms, but it's also wearing these like gilded bracers on 4 arms on each side, and it's almost dressed like a gladiator. Like it's got these huge greaves with built-in knee pads, and a mask that is reminiscent simultaneously both of the movie Man in the Iron Mask and an Iron Maiden. Not the band Iron Maiden, but like an actual Iron Maiden.
That's like so true. That is very apt. But everything's in gold. Like all the armor's in gold.
It's all gold. And it's got this like Green Ranger style plate on its chest.
Yeah.
Like they're not quite shoulder pads. But that appears to be made of jade as well. All the ornamentation appears to be green, so I'm assuming it's jade based on the culture that it comes from.
Yeah. It is reasonably imposing, and it is holding a few blades in hand. So let me tell you about the crazy Calikang. The birth of a new Calikang is and presumed survival into adulthood, of course, is cause for celebration amongst their kind. And they have a great feast that involves the consumption of the new Calikang's moltings and bones that they discarded upon their upon reaching adulthood. So that's a bit gruesome. I love it. By the way, I've combined 2e and 1e lore for all this. I haven't separated them. The 2e stuff was nice, but it wasn't in full detail, and that's because the 1e stuff, the books that we do have, we see them in an AP book, and we see them in a campaign setting in 1e. So far, 2e not present in anything beyond just the bestiary. So some really cool stuff in here. Their physiology has the unique ability to absorb and manipulate electrical energy. And they can also blast energy rays from their eyes and mouth, should they see fit. And they live up to about 200 years, but can extend this through a self-induced suspended animation in which they do not eat, drink, breathe, and they do not age, but remain fully aware. So the legend goes that there was a minor god of the 1,000 gods of Vudra named Vinishvaki, god of guardians and protector of celestial treasure. This god failed to prevent an Asura raid. So Asuras are sort of the opposites of Devas. They're like this evil version of a Deva. So you're kind of getting into like, angels versus demons kind of approach here.
Fallen angels, I think, is probably the closest.
Yeah. So Asuras are fiends specifically. And they're lawful fiends that are physical manifestations of divine accidents. So they're pretty gnarly. So basically, this god failed to prevent an Asura raid of some kind, and when he failed, he cut off the 6 fingers of his own hand and let them fall down to Galarian. And Calikangs are what crawled from the craters that were left behind of these falling fingers. Now, because of the longevity that they have, they most often serve as guardians for like ancient tombs and treasures and that sort of thing. And they are a prime choice over most of their options, as most living guardians will likely perish much sooner. Or mechanical guardians will fall into disrepair, where these creatures can just kind of self-preserve and live on. And it really helps that they have a very
focus.
Yeah, it's are you telling me to stop?
No, just trying to make sure I'm not blurry as all get out.
Stop right there. Thank you very much. What really helps the Calikangs in this to be guardians, these particular scenarios, is that they naturally feel a very strong and innate need to protect and guard something. Part of their nature, and this stems from the Calikangs feeling an innate sense of shame for Vinishvaki's failing and expect themselves and others of their kind to atone for it by taking up roles as guardians. So they feel their creator's shame and want to recover that.
I immediately, everything about these creatures, from the imagery to the lore we've gotten, has put a very specific pop culture reference in my head, and I'm excited to see if you brought it.
Okay, I probably didn't.
I would be kind of surprised if you did, because it is not like.
Okay.
It is one of those references that's probably just specific to me, like Monster Rancher from last episode, or
like most of them.
like most of them. Yeah.
Hey, there's a beauty to all of the things that are specifically to you, and it means that everyone around you is learning something new.
I mean, that's the whole reason we do the show, is so I can talk about nerdy shit and teach people about it.
Random shit. With these roles in mind, they, and their innate nature, lack of a better phrase, they perform these tasks quite willingly to a degree. Though each Calikang does expect only to serve about 100 years as a guardian. However, you can imagine that less than honest types tend to manipulate them into longer stretches of service, such as, I believe, I think I interpreted this myself. I don't think I have a reference for this, but time spent in suspension may not count towards the 100 years. You might see someone write into a contract, something like that.
Yeah, some union tactics.
Yeah, exactly. And and the Calikangs they're not like so forward thinking and selfish that they would really look for these loopholes, and they would probably graciously accept them, given the fact that they can suspend their life anyway. It's not that big a deal. Alternatively, though, they're also sought after, very highly sought after, as bodyguards in certain cases, because it's not just about protecting a ruin or a treasure, protecting something. That being said, they're probably maybe not less likely to take on such a role, but it's more life-threatening, as it were, than generally guarding a vault. However, they actually also, on top of this, prefer a solitary lifestyle, so that might lead them away from being a bodyguard in a way. But there are groupings of societies. They're just extremely rare. But when they do exist, they tend to live in temperate and tropical areas of the world, especially Vudra. Vudra being, I'm reasonably sure, the Galarian-inspired, India and South Asia kind of area of the world. I don't know. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, in India's more like Kadira.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Like Northern Africa, India, like that seems, as far as I can tell, not being from either of those cultures or having a deep Galarian roots. I think those are more Kadiran, whereas Vudra is more like Cambodia, like Qatar, Southeast Asian, in that kind of like
sure,
less Middle East.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I mean, and we know that we've already covered to some degree that how some of those traditions and philosophies and religions they cross over hard, like Indian stuff in China is so common, right, and vice versa.
Yeah. Well, the pop culture reference I'm thinking of is actually a Hindu culture from a temple in Cambodia. So.
Oh. Okay. All right. Still don't think I've covered it because I don't know what you're talking about.
I would be very surprised if you did.
Okay.
Again, it's kind of a deep cut, but it won't be as soon as I say it. I'm sure it's kind of like a throwaway scene.
All right. The other places they might exist beyond temperate tropical environments, might be jungles, swamps, and deserts. A notable tribe of the Calikang that once served Nex were actually freed upon his disappearance. So Nex was the wizard king of the nation of Nex. At some point disappeared, and once disappeared, they kind of were freed from the service, and they fled with this opportunity, and then they end up roaming the mana wastes, and they see the mana waste as a scar upon reality, and they seek ways to repair it by somehow gathering and collecting what they consider undamaged magic and releasing it into the wastes. A lot
That's
of people
really cool.
think this is futile, but they are convinced that mana wastes are effectively an empty container of magic that needs to be refilled.
I really got to do more research on the mana waste. It sounds so
Me
cool.
too.
Every time you bring it up,
Right?
it sounds so awesome. But I just refuse to ever read about it.
I wish you were more into the Outlaws and Alkenstar kind of approach to the APs, because it's all like in industry and steampunk and guns and like inventors and stuff like that. And it's set right in the mana waste.
Into that. I'm just not in, like, I just don't like it when it mixes with my fantasy. Like I like those dividing lines.
Yeah. But anyway, that is Pathfinder lore for the Calikang.
Cool.
They are guardians. They have this really unique origin story, and they be a bit crazy. They be a bit intimidating.
I like
which I
it.
hope
pretty
we'll
much
see
a blank canvas.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. I feel like the last creature we covered that specifically guarded tombs, was it the Flaming Skull or something like that? It was like a really odd one. It was like a lower level creature. Yeah.
They all specifically guard tombs.
Yeah. That's true. That's totally fair.
Yeah. Flumph maybe. Flame Skull definitely. Fuck, I don't know. They're all of them.
They've all got something to do with tombs. But let's talk about some IRL stuff. The old actually no, before we do, when we throw up while we do, it doesn't matter. Throw up the 1E art there. Also cool, very much the same in a lot of ways, but really fun.
Yeah, the mask here looks a little more like almost like Vishnu, actually.
Mm-hmm.
The one of the Hindu deities. It is also a lot blockier. Like it is.
Oh yeah.
Its proportions are way different in this. Like its arms are way longer than its torso, way longer than its legs. It has the same proportions as a firstborn space marine. Like it is stubby.
Yeah. Yes. 100%. Yeah. And then we have another one too. That this is actually from I believe it's from the artwork from the AP that they're featured in. So you get a real good scope on its size. And it's awesome.
Okay, just because of this iconography, I'm going to throw out my pop culture one now, because this is the scene where it happens in, and I think it's the first Tomb Raider movie where Angelina Jolie goes to Cambodia.
Okay,
and she fights these temple guardians that are essentially these, but they're giant and stone.
That is. I mean, that rings a very vague memory, but it's been a long time since I watched that. Damn. But I
like those movies, but
yeah. I remember enjoying it back in the day.
Yeah, so she's got to swing on this thing to puncture a thing of water. Like it is as convoluted as the video games.
Yeah.
There's not like a whole lot of good artwork out there. I'm looking for it now, but that's the best I got.
Fair enough. I dig it though. You're right. It's a deep cut, but I also kind of knew it. Okay, now let's talk about the IRL stuff.
All right.
We are definitely getting into Hindu mythology, as I said before, and we're looking at a Hindu goddess known as Kali with a K, and she was the goddess of ultimate power, time, destruction, and change. Also referred to as Mahakali or Bhadrakali or Kalika, depending on the source and culture and area. And this is the references we're looking at here are particular to Shaktism, which is one of several denominations of Hinduism. And in this tradition, it is believed Kali is considered to be a ferocious form of the goddess Adi Shakti, the supreme of all powers, or also known as the ultimate reality. God, I love her hyperbole in these things.
Yeah, Kali is some crazy shit.
Yeah. The Kali is seen as a goddess that destroys evil to protect the innocent. She's also seen as a protector of the divine, and one who bestows moksha, which sort of loosely means philosophically things like liberation, emancipation, enlightenment, release, etc. There are various legends showing her as fighting and killing asura, which are demons in this lore, and one particular legend about Raktabija. Raktabija managed to secure a boon from Shiva, in which any time a drop of his blood dropped to the battlefield, many Raktabijas would rise from it with equal strength, form, and weapons. And Kali stopped this by sucking his blood before it hit the ground, eating any clones that managed to form. The Hindu stuff is so good. It's so good.
Yeah, it really is.
So Kali takes physical form with dark blue skin, gaunt, sunken eyes, and wearing a tiger skin sari. Yeah, there you go. There's some artwork. That artwork is really important in a weird way with the person below her. And she usually has a garland of human heads, which we can see.
Yep.
In a book or script, what's it really? It's a philosophical text known as the Devi Mahatmyam, or some such. I have a little excerpt to read here, which is great.
It's actually pretty close.
Okay. Out of the surface of Durga's forehead, fierce with frown, issued suddenly Kali of terrible countenance, armed with a sword and noose, bearing the strange Katvanga, which is a skull-topped staff, decorated with a garland of skulls, clad in a tiger's skin, very appalling, owing to her emaciated flesh, with gaping mouth, fearful with her tongue lolling out, having deep reddish eyes, filling the regions of the sky with her roars, falling upon impetuously and slaughtering the great asuras in that army. She devoured those hordes of the foes of the devas and caught the blood of Raktabija before it could fall to the ground, stopping him from creating more duplicates.
There's most of the images of Kali I've seen has them holding the head of Raktabija and a bowl underneath it to catch the blood.
Nice.
It's a really, I'm really
cool.
glad you touched on that. That's it's very important.
Mm-hmm. So there are usually two depictions of Kali as well when it comes to Hindu iconography. There's the popular four-armed creature, which we're seeing now, usually described as black in color, however, but mostly depicted as blue. So described as black, depicted as blue. Her eyes are red with intoxication and rage. Her hair is disheveled. Small fangs usually protrude from her mouth, and the tongue is always lolling out. In addition to the sari and garland, sometimes she has a skirt of human arms as well. The rarer 10-armed Mahakali, which we have a picture of as well, usually is often described as shining like a blue stone, but we're seeing black skin here. Also has 10 faces, 10 feet, and 3 eyes on each head. All her limbs are decorated with ornaments. It's a wild image.
Kali goes Super Saiyan.
Yeah, basically. The forms and traditions go on and on, actually, because there's so many more of these things with the different denominations of the religions and stuff, and it stretches pretty far. One particular
and for
depiction,
audio listeners, the reason I didn't punch in and describe those is because he nailed those. Those descriptions are absolutely completely accurate. There's nothing I could add to those.
Yeah, it's so cool. There's a particular depiction that I think is of note, and it is the picture of Kali stepping on Shiva. So that is Shiva on the ground. So Shiva is Kali's consort, and when Kali went into a rage that could not be stopped, it very much going in the direction of Kali destroying the entire universe. Shiva laid down to force Kali to step on him during her rampage, and this was the only thing that could soothe her. Was him beneath her feet.
Huh.
Yeah. So I think that we sort of get the gist here of like of that story. There's so much more. It's very convoluted, you know, but I generally found mostly there's physical similarities and this like connection to fighting asuras. But yeah, at that point, there's not a I don't find a huge amount of lore similarity here. There is something to be said, I guess, about the fingers falling from this god to the ground and then the catching of the blood, and there's duplicates, you know, so the Calikang kind of are duplicates of this god, maybe. So there's this very loose connection there that maybe the Calikang are it's sort of this reverse on the lore, you know, where it's like imagine if this demon actually managed to drop its blood and create its duplicates, but we're also going with a failed task of a good god or a presumably good god who's fighting asuras. It's like really just taking those metaphors and those legends and mixing them and kind of inverting them in a way, which I think is kind of neat. You know, it's really taking little bits of each side and creating a new creature out of it.
Yeah, I like it. There's obviously a fine line to walk there as white people stealing shit from other people's mythology and, and just muddying the waters to all get out.
Yeah.
But I think in this particular case, and in most cases with Paizo, they dance that line pretty drastically. This is definitely an homage and not a bastardization, and that's why I can get behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like to me, like a lot of it wasn't obvious how those little connections and that sort of inversion of it all. In fact, it's become a little more obvious now that I've said it out loud to you on the spot. But as I was reading it and as I was researching it, I was like, I'm having a hard time finding the connections. So maybe that's something to be said about how sort of well it's done and thought out. It's not really trying to steal and appropriate so much as, you know, here's some really cool stuff that's inspired, you know some, you know, these things from the sky and this, you know, and this shape, color, and whatever, and just like let's create something out of that. Because like, let's be honest, all art is stolen. None of it's truly original, you know. And sure. I think that's the best way to look at this creature. Is it's just another cool little interpretation of art.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's a great homage. I think it's done really well. It is only tangentially connected to the being that it comes from, as to not offend people who fall into the Hinduistic religions. So yeah, I mean, as a white man in my 30s, I got no beef.
There's no beef. There's no beef to be had.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is the sort of opposite thing that's worth mentioning too, is like where Kali has this like tendency to be very destructive, and the Calikang are very protective. So it's that's like a very large departure to what appears to be the sort of main influence, at least, you know, in an aesthetic approach.
I would be inclined to disagree with you there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably where they're most similar, is protection through destruction. As far as I know, Kali isn't like just a raging force on the battlefield.
Sure,
this is just hulking out at some point.
I mean, she is described as a defender of the innocent and the divine, and there was that, you know. So, and the Calikang have a tendency towards, or at least the god that was supposed to have cut his fingers off would effectively protect divine treasures. So yeah, you're not terribly wrong there.
Yeah. I mean,
but still wrong.
I like it.
No, I'm kidding.
Okay. All right. Now Freeman's going to tell us about Kali Linux.
Now let's talk about mechanics, because I think this creature's pretty cool.
Way more interesting than Kali Linux, I assure you.
I don't even know what that is.
It's like the intro to hacking Linux. Like it's just Debian with a bunch of
like
tools
Linux,
built in.
like the OS. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's right over my head.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the mechanics. I have a quick note before we do, in fact. For anyone who might be looking at Archives of Nethys to follow on this creature, there are actually 2 listings because they did a slight change on it. The original listing comes from an AP. It's the Age of Ashes AP. It was the first 2e adventure path. But there was an updated version because they re-released the creature in the Bestiary 3. The only differences I found were that they actually gave it a small increase to its perception. And they rolled 2 different abilities they have into like one. Instead of having 2 separate entries, they had one that's just a bigger paragraph now. And there were specifically smaller changes, specifically in like the pronoun area. So they stopped calling it its and they started referring to it as they and them. But which actually just like they just sort of shortened a lot of the wording and stuff. But I mean, I combed through it for whatever reason. But if you're on Archives of Nethys, if you're on the old one, it'll have a little link that just says there's a newer version of this creature. You just click that.
Okay. And which one are we linking to? The newer version from the Bestiary 3?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we are. This creature is level 12. We're looking at an AC of 31, HP of 235. Large in size, which
I
mean,
thought they'd be bigger than that. I thought they were bordering on huge for some reason.
Mm-mm. I've gone through this so many times. 14 is like a good number in my head because I've said before many times I have a really hard time eyeing measurements. I couldn't tell you how far it is to the other side of my room. Like I have no idea. I can't even guess. But like a telephone pole from the ground up is about 14 feet tall on average, and that is the height of the average giant in these games. So I try to use that as a metric in my head. They are currently aligned at a lawful neutral, and they are considered humanoid, which makes them a society check for recall knowledge at a 32, on specific and specific lores being 30 and 27 respectively. Their perception was 20. It is now 22. Not sure why the change, but there it is. They do have a land speed of 35 feet, so they move in pretty quick. And they do speak Common and Jotun, which makes them pretty directly related to giants in that sense.
Yeah.
It's the one thing that I thought was a bit odd. I'm not sure what other language would suit it better given its sort of origins in parts of the world, but maybe there is one, maybe there isn't. I'm not sure.
I don't know if the Varna have a language, but that would be the only thing that would come even close to that in my mind.
Sure. They do have dark vision, and they also have true seeing, which is pretty powerful. They're pretty low in intelligence, -2 in that regard, which is a bit tough. Which is probably why they're easily duped by by contractors. Beastly strength at 7, Dex is 4, Con is 5, Wisdom is 2, Charisma is 4. So they're pretty well rounded, other than their sort of level of intellect. Big old boost to athletics at 25 and a 24 in intimidation, but that's all we get for boosted up skills. Kind of fits the role they're occupying though. And they fortitude saves at 23, reflex at 22, will is 20. And as far as damage resistances and all that goes, they simply have immunity to electricity. And they do get that pesky +1 to all saves versus magic, which is sometimes a little hard to track, but it's helpful. And this is one of those creatures it's going to have equipment. It's wielding swords. So should you defeat one, you will find yourself with 2 × 2 +1 striking long swords. Unless, of course,
large size, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Yeah. Which we just have struggled with a little bit.
Yeah. So I actually have a question about that in 2e.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the case, but since it's +1 striking, it's magical, right? Does it
Does
automatically
it
resize?
resize? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I honestly
Okay.
don't know the answer. That was very much a thing in 1E. I'm
Yeah.
generally happy with it being the case to a degree in 2E. That being said,
well, it just works differently because the +1 and the striking is a property rune. They're not magical runes, and that's why
right.
I've always been
Yeah.
kind of confused by it.
Yeah, I'm almost inclined to say that like any of the magic items that are considered like unique or specific is usually how they're worded. Those might have a tendency to resize, but the general ones where you have a mundane item that you're adding magic to, maybe not. But
Cool.
I honestly couldn't say.
Rules is written, right in. Phones are open for the browser.
That being said, when they be swinging that longsword, it's a +28 to hit.
Jesus.
2d8 plus 15 slashing. Of course, considered magical, 10-foot reach, and the longsword is versatile for piercing as well. So they be swinging and hitting pretty hard. They can also punch you. They have fist attack +25, 3d8 plus 13 bludgeoning. Going to be agile, which is nice for the old map, but still considered non-lethal, but still also a 10-foot reach. They have a breath
That's
weapon.
interesting that the sword does more, or that the fist do more damage than the sword.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. 2d8 plus 15 versus 3d8 plus 13.
Because as somebody who played a punch paladin, it was very difficult to get my damage anywhere near that of a weapon, much less more than a weapon.
Yeah, there's maybe a slight trade-off in a way built in there. Like the higher damage one definitely has a lower map, but it has a lower chance to hit as well. It's a lower bonus to the attack. Whereas the longsword is a higher bonus to attack, but slightly lower, but more affected by map, so on and so forth. However, hold the phone. I don't know if it's going to justify it, but there is something coming up that refers to swords and fists in particular. Okay. Maybe that'll balance it out, but I actually don't know off the top of my head.
My first guess is it's just punching with more than one fist, so it just uppercuts you with two at the same time. But yeah, let's take me there.
Okay. Well, before we get there, we're going to go cover the breath weapon. It's a once per day action.
Sorry, what the fuck did you just say?
Breath weapon. I did say it earlier. They have the ability to shoot energy from their eyes and their mouth.
Okay. So that's what they're skinning as a breath weapon. Okay.
Basically, yeah. To me, it's a little bit more like a ray rather than a breath weapon, but it is a cone, or no, it's a line. It is a line, which is kind of cool.
So it is a ray.
But it is specified. It is literally written down as a breath weapon. So it's once per day. It is 13d6 energy damage. 60-foot line, which travels straight through anything in that line, and it's a DC 28 basic reflex save. It has the traits acid, arcane, cold, electric, evocation, fire, and sonic. The reason it has all these traits is because when it casts this, it can choose which energy damage it wants to do at the moment of casting or using this ability. However, what's the beauty is, because they have such a tendency towards electrical stuff, if they choose electricity as the damage, they upgrade that D6 to a D8. So it was 13D8
Jesus
instead.
Christ. Is there a cooldown on this?
It's once per day.
Okay. All right. That's fine then, I guess.
So it's very dangerous. They also have an active ability that's one action, by the way.
No, it's not. It's two.
Is it not? Did I screw that up? 2 actions?
I wasn't going to call you on it. Yeah.
I mean, call me on it.
I always have the Nethys page opened up
okay.
After I fucked up Phoenix last time. So
yeah, that's fair. 2 actions? That makes more sense.
Yeah, 2 actions.
All right. Well, another 2 action ability is called Sixfold Flurry. And you basically make up to 2 longsword strikes and up to 4 fist strikes for 2 actions. And oh, did I say or? I meant and.
No. I'm just clarifying. So with 2 actions, it can hit with all of its limbs.
Correct. Each of which must be against a different target, though. That is a caveat that you will see in 2E all the time. So it's not overpowered. However, all do count towards the map, but not until after they've been made, which is very powerful. And for 1 round, the Calikang will gain a circumstance bonus to AC equal to the number of strikes they chose not to take, up to a maximum of +4, making only 2 strikes. So they can just go sword, and then have a +4 to their AC.
So just so I'm clear, because I'm not 100% dialed into this. My first question is, if I were to use this as my first 2 actions, it would be all 6 attacks at full attack bonus.
It could be, yes. If there are 6 targets in range, you can do that, yes.
But if I did that, my third action, if that was an attack, would that be at like a -37 or whatever it is?
It doesn't.
It just caps at the -10.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And
that sucks. That is a hell of a first action.
It could be. Very much could be. Yeah. But because it has to be different targets, it really is the sort of ability that you want to like reserve some, pull some back, and give yourself an AC bonus. You actually want to do that probably on a very regular basis. If the circumstances for some crazy reason actually gave you 6 targets within reach at one time, it would be an amazing opener to terrify everyone. But that's not likely to happen. So you're more than likely constantly every round going to reserve some of these attacks for a bonus to your AC, just to keep the fight going.
Yeah, I mean, the only things this creature would ever do in my mind is opening volley breath weapon or position and breath weapon, move and 6-fold flurry. Like there's no reason to use any of its attacks individually.
Right. Which brings us to the next passive. And if you didn't think already that you should do some research to this creature before you fight it, or at least hope you get a good recall knowledge at the moment you encounter it, this proves that you really should do it, because it's got an ability called energy conversion. And its traits are abjuration and arcane. And whenever it is hit by an electric spell attack or rolls a successful save against an electric effect, that they absorb the energy. And they heal equal to quadruple the spell's level.
Holy shit.
And recharge their breath weapon. Their breath weapon is once per day.
God.
So if you hit this with an electric attack, if you hit it with electric fucking arc and it succeeds, it will
shocking grasp, man.
Up.
Holy shit.
And it cannot absorb its own spells in this way. But bear in mind, it is immune to electric. So not only do you not damage it, you've just possibly given it back its incredible power to blast you again. So you need to know what this creature can and cannot do. It's a bit situational, but it could really, really rock your world really quickly. And not only that, like you want to know in advance in a way, because you want to be able to, if you can, go in with some electric resistance. Because if it's going to use that breath weapon and it chooses electricity, it rolls D8s instead of D6s. Oh boy, that's gonna mess you up.
That's some crazy shit.
Yeah.
Holy hell.
And then that being said, it does have some spells, innate spells built in. True Seeing is the one that's constant, that we saw in the senses section. It has the ability to cast Chain Lightning, which kind of is apt. It can't hit itself and give itself like healing and stuff back, but it can blast that out as it wants. And but the one I really don't get is it has Magic Weapon at will. Magic Weapon's a cool spell. It's a good spell. It basically makes your weapon I think it's a +1 striking weapon when it's not that. But this creature already has those. So I don't know if it's assumed to have cast them on them all, but it only lasts for a minute.
What I was thinking.
But it only lasts for a minute. So it might be at will, but there's still an action tax to casting that, right? So,
or are we to assume that it's +1 striking longswords just have Magic Weapon cast on them?
Well, no, because it is literally listed under the items that it has in its inventory, a +1 striking longswords ×2. So it's assumed that when it dies, they drop. I just knocked my light over. I got all Italian. I was talking with my hands.
Okay. Do you want to take a second to fix that?
No, it's fine. It'll survive. But yeah, it's you can't presume that the item dropping has a 1-minute spell stuck on it. You know, it's not what it is. So I feel like that's the direction they were going for, but I think they might have fucked it up. You know what I mean? So yeah, magic weapon. I think they messed it up.
Yeah, that is a curious addition.
That being said, it could, be casting it on an ally's weapon, given that it could be the bodyguard of someone, but I feel like I'm stretching it.
Yeah, and it's just not like it's a good spell, but it's not really worth it, in my opinion, at that level. Like,
no, it's not. It just doesn't quite add up.
No. And the cost of a +1 striking weapon is so low that your party at least is going to have them at this level. Like, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I wonder if it had something to do with the original AP they were featured in, the one you were talking about.
Yeah, it was actually in Council of Thieves, which I don't know anything about.
Not the one. Is that the 1E one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
I suppose they were in Age of Ashes too. I forgot about that.
That's the one I was talking about, Age of Ashes.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know anything about their role on that. I didn't look it up. Kind of forgot. Okay. Yeah.
That was the playtest, or was that the first AP that came out?
That was the very first 2nd edition AP.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't have much on that. Just double checking, I can confirm that both the old and the new one both have the spell, so it hasn't been removed. It wasn't a mistake on my end. It's there, level 1 at will.
Weird.
Yeah. So I mean, make an ally of it. It'll help you out, especially if you're at level 1. You make a friend of this level 12 creature. It's possible. It's totally possible.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Imagine that as like the intro to your campaign, where like you are lowly guards.
Wait. Homebrew.
Yeah. I keep forgetting
timestamps, motherfucker. I keep forgetting about him too. But it really, really does help with the timestamps.
I'm sure it does. Yeah, no, no doubt. We're new to video content. Yeah, imagine you're like lowly. You start as lowly guards to like some ancient secret, and maybe you know a lot or very little about said secret, and you're not the only one. So like you're literally the mall security guards at this site, the big guys are the Calikangs. Right. But then someone breaks in, and the Calikangs are the goddamn CIA, or at least the army. And but someone tries to break in, and they almost get there, and you're sent as the drones to go investigate, and then you slowly like spirals out. You're like, okay, who was this? How do we do it? Like, we got to explore this and figure out the conspiracy behind trying to get to our big ancient secret that we're beholden to protect. And maybe somewhere along the way, the Calikang's like, magic weapon, go, yeah. Hey, look, they've escaped into that small tunnel. I can't fit in because I'm too large. Magic weapon, go get them.
Yeah, I guess. You could cast magic
Mission
weapon
Impossible 10
for 2 actions, or you could just 2-action chain lightning. One of those seems valuable. The other one is magic weapon.
We only get 1 casting at chain lightning. They've already wasted it.
Right. Okay.
There's always a way.
Yeah. I mean, I would never use chain lightning in this situation unless, I had already exhausted the breath weapon.
Yeah.
Except maybe if there were more than one Calikang and you wanted to chain lightning to recharge the other one's breath weapon, that could be fun.
Oh no. Well, it says it does. What does it say? Okay, let's read the word specifically here. It says a Calikang can't absorb their own spells this way.
Yeah. It is not its own spell. It is a different individual.
Yeah, I mean that is I don't know. It's arguably vague though because it says their own, which can be singular and plural.
Oh, does it say their own?
It says their own. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Not its own. That was one of the things they removed, right? It was it's to their and they. So it arguably you could rule against a Calikang recharging another Calikang in this way. That being said, if you didn't, I don't think it's cut and dry. I don't think it's clear. If you did allow it, whoo, boy, that could be that could be one hell of a fight.
Yeah, that's probably why they made this change, because they gave it an electrical spell that could recharge its breath weapon and damage literally everybody else in the room. Chain lightning is one of those bananas ass spells, listeners. It is 8d12. And each target must accept a basic reflex, and it just arcs to another creature of your choice if they're within 30 feet of the first, and it just keeps going.
It just keeps going until everyone
the chain ends if
within
any
30
target
feet
critically
of another
succeeds.
creature. Yeah,
yeah. So, chain lightning is one of my favorite 6th level spells. It's great. It has a range of 500 feet, so you can just electrify the entire enemy without even being an eye line. Like it is a vicious spell.
It is so brutal and it's so fun. And you do have some control over when it ends, which is kind of fun. But you definitely have to have line of effect. You have to be able to, that line has to travel not through something. You can't go through a wall or anything. But it's
the spell version of an elaborate game of checkers. Just
basically, yes.
I love it. I think
awesome.
it's such a good spell. But that being said, the Calikang itself without chain lightning is so interesting to the point where I don't even know if I'd bother with chain lightning, which is saying something because it is an amazing spell.
Yeah.
But if I can just hit everybody with my breath weapon and then just six-fold flurry the whole time.
But with a breath weapon with a line is tough. It's like it's hard to get full efficacy out of that. But if you do, it's very, very particularly devastating. Very brutal. The
easiest way is to have a 5-foot passageway that leads into the room.
Right. 100%. And catch them all while they're running away. In particular.
Just open the doors.
So
breath
evil.
Weapon.
So brutal.
I mean, it's a temple guardian. It's supposed to be on guard. So they open the doors. They roll their stealth checks or whatever, kick open the door. One action to exit the state. And if they exit the state to attack, they gain a +2 bonus to their initiative roll, which we didn't talk about, which is awesome.
Is that a thing? Did I miss that?
Suspended animation. It is a concentrate. By concentrating for 5 minutes, Calikang can enter a state of suspended animation, freezing in place. Gains a +4 bonus to his fortitude saves. Doesn't age. Immune to disease, toxins, poison, starvation, thirst. Can exit as a free action. If they exit to attack, +2 to initiative.
I totally missed that.
Yeah. So your players open the door, immediately roll for initiative. They come out of combat, +2 bonus, and then hopefully they're still in the door, and just
That's
breath weapon
so
line.
good. Just mess their day up.
Yeah, that would make their initiative bonus a +24.
You guys have turned tail and fled more than a few times in Stemming the Tide. This would be a really good way to make you do it yet again. And I'm not even sure how you would convince yourselves to go back into that room. That would be a tough one.
I don't know. It would have to be like with crazy planning. There's one creature that we fought to date that I don't want to spoil, but we just haven't even considered going back. Like It ruined us so bad that we just haven't even thought about going. We as players off mic haven't even discussed it. It worked us so badly.
Yep. And it wasn't even, not according to the Paizo calculations of encounter difficulty, it was not technically a difficult fight, but but the right circumstances make for the worst scenario.
Yeah, just a myriad of bad rolls. Like it just,
yeah.
I think all three of us almost died in that encounter as we were trying to get the fuck out of there.
Oh yeah, it was so close. It was so damn close.
Yeah, it was brutal.
Oh, that was a good one.
But if you want to know more about that, you can jump into our Discord and ask us about it at unchartednorth.com/Discord. If you like this show and any of our other shows and you want to give us a little bit of help, $5 a month on Patreon at patreon.com/unchartednorth. $5 will get you a handwritten thank you letter and some other goodies. $10 a month you can suggest a creature like last episode, the Hooked on Phonics by Pavo. And we got a couple more coming down the pipe, which is great. If you like our logo, the Critty, or even the Uncharted Compass, you can find gear with all of our stuff on it at unchartednorth.com/shop. If you want to find the show notes that we used to make these episodes, including a bunch of links to our reading list, as well as some other things, you can find that all on encounterthis.ca, which will just direct you to our Uncharted North website. If you are listening to this on audio and you want to help us out for free, you can rate and review on whatever platform you're listening to. Spotify has opened it up recently, as well as Google and Apple. If you are watching the video version, like and subscribe. That all really helps, even if it's just a like. I know for whatever reason subscribers are trepidatious, but even if you could just throw a like, that really, you would not believe how much that helps with our analytics. It is, I've been learning about it lately, like spent so much time learning about YouTube analytics, and it is crazy. So thank you so much for listening, and thank you for making it to the end of the episode. And if there's anything you'd like to see us do differently or change, leave a comment on the YouTube episode below and let us know what's up. We appreciate you stopping by. It's been great, and thanks, I guess.
You have effectively said at me, right? You basically just said that. Yeah. Okay. Just making sure we're on the same page.
You're in charge of YouTube comments, though.
I am. Oh shit. How do I log in?
You are a social media officer. Somebody else. I don't do social media. I post and fuck.
It's true.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, listeners. We will see you again in 2 weeks for whatever episode that happens to be. The only thing we know for sure at this moment is that it will definitely be on a Thursday, and it will 100% be episode 107.
Until next time, creatures, thanks, as always, for listening to Encounter This.